Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you an opening which you have probably never even heard of. This is a variation in the Queen's Gambit King's Indian defense, where you avoid mainline Grunfeld theory and you also negate Black's chances. And if Black doesn't know what he's doing, then this is going to be very, very dangerous. If you want some more in-depth analysis on this topic, then you should read Kristen Hansen's book on the Basmann Williams Attack in the Hacker opening series. And yeah, as I said, this is the Basmann Williams Attack. Knight f6, c4, g6. And here, main lines are knight to c3, knight to f3, and what is going to happen in these positions is that the center is going to close, and you probably notice because you're probably a d4 player, and either Black is going to play a5 and put a knight on c5, or he's going to play knight e8 or knight h5 and go for f5, f4. And if they do this, like let's say knight h5 is a good move here, you should play g3 and f5. And in these positions, it can sometimes be a huge struggle. Like white is going to attack on the queen side, while black's going to have a hefty attack on the king side. But we are not going to get into any of that because we are playing h4. This looks really dumb. But the point of this is, if you have these fianchettoed structures here, then attacking the structure with h5 is almost every single time a good idea. Especially when you know that the king is going to g8 and you could open up the h file. Now, what exactly is the point of this? As I said, you basically negate all of black's real kingside chances. Like the best that he's going to have is f5, but no further. And black basically has two ways to play, not three ways. He could play in a normal King's Indian with bishop g7, knight c3, e4, d6, bishop e2, threatening h5, and e5. And if they play like this, then, and if they never play h5, then they are just going to be losing because of h5. And, you know, they can try whatever they want, but h6 and bishop h8, and even though it kind of looks like it's alright for black, it's not. It is definitely not alright. It is +1 because the dark squares are so weak. Even a potential, what is called a lollipop mate on g7. And here, a lot of times you're going to play g4 and f3. This is really not that complicated. And even though playing h4 on the third move looks like you're going to be in an attacking game, really exciting. I mean, it is exciting, but you're not going to be in a particular attacking game. You're more going to be in a game where you just have way more space if you get h5, h6 in. And the point here is, like I said, a5, f3, c6, and g4. And they can take and open up this, but now you have even play on the c file. The pawn on d6 is weak. This bishop is absolutely trash. And even f4 ideas in the future. Like, black has to play a4 here, which is still a fairly normal plan. Knight h3, bishop g7, and you're going to see this a lot. Queen d2 is also an idea if you take here in some structures, you know, with the open rook, and queen a5, and you can actually just simply castle here. Like, they don't have anything. Queen b6, king g2, and you're +1 here. Why is that? Simply because weakness, trash bishop, and little to no space. And you have a lot of space, quite the good bishop. This knight can be well placed. This bishop is doing its job on this diagonal. This knight is defending and has some good squares. And these rooks can be quite active here. And this queen is also well placed. That was if they have no idea what they're doing. But if they've seen this before, then they are probably going to play like this. And play normally here. But they will play h5 here. If they know what they're doing. And here, this square kind of screams weak because you have the pawn here controlling it, and most of the time you're going to place your bishop here, which you're going to do right away, and you're putting pressure on this knight, and this bishop is just overall well placed, and knight g4 can never hit the bishop. You know, usually In King's Indians, knight g4 could be an idea if the bishop is on e3 and the knight hits the bishop. But here, you can even play queen to d2 and bishop h6. And ideas here, funnily enough, if they play something like knight to d7, queen to d2, rook to e8, and now you can just simply play rook d1, c5, and you're just going to play like this. This is just a normal King's Indian, but you have h4, which is quite nice. And here you just have a really, really great game. You can even castle here, because this pawn is never going to become a weakness. So remember that if they play h5, you should put a bishop, like, if they play h5, then you should definitely always put a bishop here. And you can even sometimes put your knight here, if the knight stands good here, like if it's attacking something. And if you've played d4, c4 before against the King's Indian, then you basically know the ideas, and this isn't far from it. This is basically the same, but you have perhaps attacking chances, and it's kind of a surprise weapon. Like if your opponent, if you're maybe below 2000, your opponent is probably not going to know what this is. Now, h5, even though it's a good setup, it's definitely not the best. The best setup is not playing e5. The best setup is playing c5. And here the point is that you're not committing your pawn to e5, because d5 here is the best move, and now you can kind of chip at the center. Here you play h5, they probably will take. You take with the c pawn, and one thing that really strikes out here is that this is a Benoni. This is just almost one-to-one a Benoni, but you have a lot of kingside space here. In this position, like let's just say you get g4 and g5 in, you would be completely winning. f4, f5. And this is, you would love to strive for this. But your opponent is not going to allow it, obviously. Now, if they don't play Benoni, and because you're a King's Indian player, which, I mean, a King's Indian player should be familiar with Benoni structures, but if they don't know what they're doing, they're not going to play b5 here. If they do know that, then they will play b5. And b5 is very, very, very poisonous. It looks at first glance like it's a free pawn, but I mean, if you take with a knight, it's just horrible. There's just knight e4. So you take with the bishop, but now knight e4. Yeah, knight e4. Point being, this bishop is a monster. Bishop c3, bc3, queen b5. And black is equalized and is definitely maybe even better here. So you should not never take here on b4, except you should play b5, e5, sorry. And the point here is that black has to take, and now you play h6, bishop h8, and this is again play. Like if you don't play h5, then just go through, and now you can take, because obviously there's no knight takes e4. If they just try knight e4, normally just take, and this bishop, look at this, it does not have the scope it used to have. So basically the point of e5 is to negate the bishop scope and to allow you to take here. So let's go back if they don't play b5. But you know, in many players who have been briefly familiarized with the Benoni plans might play a6 here, just trying to go for b5. And now you simply have a4. And usually in the Benoni, you kind of have some ideas here, like you have some play. But here that is just simply not the case, because you're, first of all, very slow, and white can get just a really, really nice position. Now you can even, I mean, you can play knight f3 here, you can play king to f1 even. But even though knight f3 is the best move, you can definitely play this. I would recommend g4, which is not the best move. This is quite a dubious plan. And the point is that the knight goes to h5, and this is not a free pawn. This is definitely not a free pawn because of bishop g4. My opponent will probably not know this, except they'll go to like d7. And this is why I would kind of recommend it, because, I mean, yeah, the knight is trapped first of all. And this is just kind of aggressive. Like if you like aggressive and kind of dubious play even, you should play this. But if you like playing, I guess, good chess, then you should play this, like normal chess. And yeah, I mean, as you can see, even though the engine says h4 is dubious. Like, it says you basically lose all of the advantage. It is definitely not. h4 is such a cool surprise weapon that you can a lot of times just kill your opponents with. Like, it's not like a surprise weapon where it's like a huge commitment, you have to play this, and if you don't, then it's over. No, you can just play h4, and if your opponent knows theory, then you're going to be completely fine. This is not dubious at all. You're just going to develop normally and have a great game. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next episode of, so to say, hacker chess variations. And until then, goodbye.